So before the week is out, I will post into Blackboard an assignment where you share some proof that you've acquired a electronic or physical copy of the textbook, which could include this view of Kindle, right? And there it is. So if I want to, you can open it up basically and show a screenshot of it. You'll notice that there's something distinctive that shows my name up here. Everybody see this up here? Mm-hmm. So showing me a screenshot of the cover that you lifted off of the Amazon website before you never purchased it isn't going to work, okay? And there's actually quite a bit of reference that we're going to work here across network methods. So this is one of those required textbooks, but we did try to give you plenty of options. You can also rent this, I think, on VitalSource or other websites if the price on Amazon isn't good enough. But what I will do is post the first assignment, and it's only worth a point. And in previous seasons, those were optional assignments, but in this course, it is not an optional assignment, right? And it would be bad if you had a 0 the first week. It would be bad if you had a 0 for the first week because you didn't do something simple to ensure your own success. I'm just saying. So this is one time where I'm pressing a little more attention with students as an instructor because you're 400 level, you're seniors, and this should be okay. Up to a point. Now, if this is really chafing you and stressing you out, then don't hesitate to send me an email and say, hey, I'd like to discuss this further. But I expect each student, not just somebody, each student in this class to post proof of acquisition, appropriate acquisition. If you show me a PDF that you got off the dark web and you're proving that you're a great hacker and you know how to steal from people, who spent a year off without pay to write a book, I'm not going to be impressed with that unless you share a simple receipt for a low-cost PDF, which is legitimate, okay? Does everybody understand what I'm saying? So you might have alternate sources. You can show a PDF. That's okay. Just show me the receipt with the PDF. Any questions about the first assignment that will be posted inside Module 1? Okay, inside Module 2, 1.2, there will be a second assignment posted over the weekend that has to do with optimizing your personal technology and installing VirtualBox. Now, you might do this routinely anyway, but at this point, you know the drill. You're going to update your applications. You're going to remove unused or unknown applications. You're going to update your operating system. You're going to show that you have the latest version of the operating system, which is 22H2 if you're in Windows 10, or 21H2 if you're in Windows 11, I believe, in Windows 11. I have to check my laptop, but I'll have those specifics in there. Then you're gonna, after that, you're gonna reboot, you're gonna clean the disk, right? You're gonna clean the disk. If you're running with a laptop, you're gonna have it powered on with a power supply, right? And you're gonna turn off power save features so it doesn't go to sleep while it's trying to do this. Because none of this will work. And the point I'm trying to make is, if you don't do this, it will tell on you, okay? Now, when does that due? By Wednesday of this next week. So you have a little bit of lead time. While we're talking about days and classes, it would appear that we have a schedule conflict for the course between this course and Dr. Boumediene. Dr. Boumediene, as you know, is the chair of our computer science department. I like being in a good place and in a good space with Dr. Boumediene. I do not want to be in a place that's contentious with Dr. Boumediene at any point. And he actually has a CSC443 class in here on Mondays and Wednesdays from 8 to 9:50, which actually collides with the same time frame we have for this class. What I'm telling you is that I appealed to him and said, hey, let's divide and conquer. I want hands-on workshop on Fridays. So the good news is, in this class, we're going to establish something new for this course. Friday is a hands-on workshop. You're going to bring your gear. We're going to do stuff together. I'm going to do it. You're going to do it. That's going to be a cool way to work each week. Okay? Everybody with me? And we haven't had a chance to set the stage for this this week, but we're telling you about it for next week. Okay? So in order for you to be able to do the things that you got to do on Fridays, which are hands-on workshop, and then what happens if we run out of time? Well, you have the rest of the weekend to do the solution, right? So if you think about it, Fridays are good. I appealed and said, please allow us to use this room on Fridays when it's not used. So he has a 2-hour class Monday and Wednesdays, but this class isn't used from 9 to 9:50. So I intend to be in-person, live, hands-on workshop style class every Friday in RT Park 129 or on the St. Thomas campus, in an equivalent room on the St. Thomas campus. Dr. Boumediene has promised that he will help me map out which CAB classrooms or other classrooms are appropriate for that purpose. And I will be over to the St. Thomas campus before Labor Day. So in any case, starting Monday, I will join from my office. I will do Zoom, or I will join from my home office using Starlink internet service, which just arrived. And this is a network forensics class. And I'm going to keep my broadband VI/Liberty network active, but I'm also going to turn up the Starlink, and then we're going to do some things to test each in class to see which one sucks as far as network security. So Mondays and Wednesdays, I will be working either from home or from here in Zoom. But on Fridays, we'll be in person, on the ground, in the classroom. And it might be ideal if you could reserve Fridays to be here in case something goofy happens and we need to really get hands-on with you to help you with your tech, right? Now, again, if you're over on St. Thomas, we'll adapt and adjust. Any questions about the course schedule from here on out and our locations? Do we have anybody that's joining us from St. Thomas today? Anyone? Just asking. Is everybody from St. Croix? Yeah, we're all Prussians?
Yep. Well.
Okay.
Most of us are born here.
Yeah, okay. Or you're transplanted here, so, okay. I got
Yeah,
you.
that
All right, okay. Okay, so what is, all right, we talked about the second. You remember there's a recording. I may try to update the recording about optimizing your personal technology because some of the information in there is dated. It shows an older version of Windows 10. It refers to the older version of Windows 10, something like, 2019, whatever, blah, 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 right? So it's 19, whatever, blah, blah, blah. In any case, if the same recording is in there that walks through the steps for how to optimize your personal technology, the assignment will tell you exactly which artifacts you need to post. That's worth 2 points, okay? And then we'll have the stage set by next Wednesday to demonstrate the first aspects of your solution. Now, I want to talk to you about where we left off. Any questions so far? You should not install VirtualBox, and you should not enable Hyper-V if you have a professional edition, a corporate edition, an education edition, an enterprise edition of Windows. You should not enable Hyper-V. You should not retain VirtualBox, and you should delete your interfaces. So as we're setting the stage for the solution, there's extra detail in the assignment that's due Wednesday that's going to ask you to optimize your personal technology, but then to capture screenshots of your network interfaces before and after you install VirtualBox. If you don't have access to a professional or enterprise or education edition of Windows, that's okay. That's all right. But if you do, we're going to ask you to disable your Hyper-V. Now, when you do that and you uninstall and you delete the interfaces, you do not have to wipe any virtual machines that you've created. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about here? Okay, but what we want to see is something that looks like this. So for your optimizing personal technology, I'm going to ask you to show this screen before and after you install VirtualBox at a minimum, or VirtualBox and Hyper-V if you can, right? And here you see VirtualBox, there's an extra adapter. And that's there because I installed VirtualBox, right? So for optimizing your personal technology due Wednesday, by the start of class Wednesday, 9 a.m. Wednesday, you will have worked some essential maintenance on your personal technology. If you have an implementation or installation of virtual machines, you're going to uninstall the VirtualBox, you're going to disable the Hyper-V. And after you're finished optimizing, you're going to take a screenshot of this, where it does not show the additional network interfaces. Then the last part of your optimizing personal technology, because it's a 400 level class, because this is network forensics, and because you got to have tight tech to catch stuff on a network in real time, and there's no room for mercy, okay? What we're going to want you to do is take this screenshot so that we know before you set up any additional machines what your network environment on the device or system looks like after you install your hypervisor, after you install your virtual client, right? So has everyone here had like CSC443-Tech or other courses where we work with virtual machines? And I said there's a type 1 hypervisor where it works off the bare metal and there's no operating system in between. But then there's a type 2 hypervisor that sits on the operating system and it runs like a regular application. No? Yes? Maybe? No? Drawing a blank. Some of you did, some of you were in those classes, I think. In any case, what we wanted you to understand is that the word baseline should come to mind. Baseline. In forensics, especially in network forensics, the most powerful tool that you possess is the one right between your ears, okay? And it's your powers of observation and what you know to be normal that's important. So we are going to repeat some things we did in digital forensics where we established a baseline, but we want to do it a little differently because the context here is network forensics. ¿Entiendes? ¿Comprende? Any questions? So this would be the finished result that you would submit for your second assignment, where you show the 2 virtual adapters or the 1 virtual adapter after Hyper-V, the latest version of Hyper-V, the latest version of the extension pack, the latest version is installed, right? That's what you're going to do. That's where we're going to go. And by Wednesday morning, 9 a.m., in order to set the stage for the hands-on workshop on Friday, you're going to have to be in that place. So I'm going to post this assignment probably before the afternoon is out. I want you to get started as soon as we finish. I will email you the link for optimizing your personal technology so you can get started. But basically, you've been through this drill before. So I'm assuming that you remember, oh yeah, we look at control panel to see the programs and features. We're looking for things that we don't know or are strange, we don't use. Then it's also a reference list to figure out, okay, what apps do I need to update, right? Because you have all these things in here that need to be updated, right? And then what else? The operating system update, the disk cleanup, the disk defrag. And then finally, there's one last step that turns your system into, well, it improves the performance significantly if you have the disk space. Does anybody remember what we're talking about?
The partitions?
It doesn't have to do with the partitions. And having a separate VHD partition, that came up in our last class, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the last step again for setting up, for optimizing your technology? I'll give you a hint. Huh?
Page memory.
Page memory. You're modifying page memory so that in the Advanced tab, under System Properties, under Advanced System Settings, you're going into Performance, you're going into the Advanced tab again, you're selecting this option for virtual memory after you have defragmented, after you have cleaned up your disk and defragmented. If you have ample disk space, you want to configure up to 2 times the amount of page file memory as a minimum value and a maximum value. Both. You're going to click the set button and then say, okay, if you have 32 gigs of hard disk space to devote to that purpose. Now, if you don't, you're going to take the amount of disk space that you have to try to match the size of your RAM. So if you have 8 gigs of RAM, you have 16 gigs of RAM, you're going to multiply by 1024. That's the number you put into initial size and maximum size, right? And then once you do that and you reboot your system, what you'll be able to do is swap large chunks of memory as you're working with different virtual machines. And that's a performance matter that will tell on you. And I've said this in other classes where we're working with virtual machines. So some of you are hearing this again from yesterday. You might be rolling your eyes. My apologies, Shamira. But we're doing the same thing here, right? So Shamira is going to do this because she'll have a kludgy, slow, awkward system in her other class. She'll also have a slow, and I don't mean to pick on you, Shamira. I'm just calling you out because we have more than one class together, and in both of those classes we're using virtual machines. So you're an ideal candidate to share, right? So if we're going to be working with that virtual machine a lot, then you don't want to have slow, old, messed up personal technology. If you work the personal optimization process going into Wednesday and you find out it's not delivering the kind of performance gains that you expect, you're not seeing it, then I want you to let me know, because maybe it's time for you to clean slate your system and load from scratch. And there's a very easy way to do that. And that's exactly like getting a new system completely. One other tip would be to check to see if your laptop or PC has a BIOS update. A lot of times there are performance enhancements that are embedded in BIOS version upgrades that are available from your original equipment manufacturer or OEM. Does everybody know what I mean by BIOS and OEM? If you go into system information, everybody do that now, please. Open up system information. This is a quick way to reference what kind of BIOS you have and what version it is. A lot of times, depending on the manufacturer, here it is. My BIOS version is 1.19.0 from when? July 3rd, 2023. Yeah. Some of you may be looking at your system information and realizing, oh snap, my BIOS is from a couple of years ago. Well, that would be a good thing to update before you go through the optimization process, okay? And if there are new drivers for your network cards, that's another thing to do. And if there's new chipset downloads, chipset for your machine, okay? Those are things that you can do. So those and there's one more, video. So between network drivers, chipset drivers, video drivers, and the BIOS, those four things can result in dramatic improvements in performance and a whole lot less buggy, and stuff that didn't work suddenly starts working. I've seen it. I've seen somebody conclude that a 5-year-old machine is unsalvageable because it's just slow and it doesn't work or whatever, and it can't get this software to run, you can't get this new version of stuff to run, and a new OS won't run. And then lo and behold, you update to the latest version of BIOS, and the things you couldn't fix, no one could fix. Even with a brand new clean slate OS install, couldn't fix it. Wipe the slate clean. See it every year. Wipe the slate clean, load from scratch Windows, load from scratch the Mac OS, right? Lo and behold, there's a firmware update for Macs. There's a firmware update for Windows PCs, right? And that firmware BIOS, right? All of a sudden, everything's working again. And I used to get tagged in all the time once a year, and they go, "We can't fix this, we gotta buy a new one." And I'm like, "We gotta buy a new one? It's only 3 years old. What the hell? We spent $2,000 on that laptop." I mean, don't get me wrong, it's good to buy this for the professor in physics because they need good stuff, but that's only 3 years old. And they'd say, "Well, here's what we've done." My last question was, did you update the BIOS? In this optimizing personal technology, the assignment's going to tweak one of the submissions so you show this screen. And if I go to your website for your model computer and I find out that you have an old version of BIOS, you haven't done what you need to do to optimize your personal technology. Okay? So everybody understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I've demonstrated this because if I go to the website, I should be able to take the service tag, which should be here or on Dells have service tags, right? If I find the service tag and go here and look for it, then I should find that this is the latest version of BIOS, 1.19. Now, I do not want you to load a beta version of a BIOS that just came out. Don't do that, okay? No beta drivers, no beta versions. Oftentimes, the OEM version of video drivers is much better than the Windows built-in drivers. This is especially true for NVIDIA interfaces, NVIDIA components, or AMD components. A lot of times the Windows drivers, they might be newer, but they're not better necessarily, okay? In any case, are there any questions about this?
I just personally didn't know that BIOS actually like affected the computer in that, like in such a large way.
It usually doesn't until you've been using a system for a couple of years. And why don't the manufacturers, so Jadel said he didn't know that it profoundly impacted the performance. Is it in the manufacturer's best interest to tell you, hey, you could have a brand new PC if you just loaded this new update?
Not at all, no.
Not at all. What's their motivation?
To get you to get another piece.
Yeah, they want you to get a new one, and they want you to hand down the old one to, like, oh, a freshman at a university, here's my nephew, he needs a computer, you can have the hand-me-down, right? That's what they want. They want to keep the revenue flowing. This is a revenue, the term for that is revenue stream. And this is an important concept in network forensics, because if you're hired to conduct forensic analysis of a network because there's something impacting the efficiency of that network that affects revenue stream, money, right? I mean, I know this is a small window of video that you're seeing here, but money, right? We're talking about money. Money makes the world go round, right? So it still does. A long time ago, there was a famous singer, actress, dancer named Liza Minnelli that sang a really cute song called, well, the words were, money makes the world go round, the world go, anyway, still does, right? Any questions before we go on? All right, so let's talk about the solution. So I will post in the module a mild reading assignment for your new textbook once you have proven that you've acquired the textbook for next week. We will not, okay, Shinoa, oh, okay, must have lost the connection. All right. I have a practical question for all of you as students in the course. Do each of you recall, I think I'm going to do this. Do each of you recall the 3 pillars of cybersecurity? What are the 3 letters that represent the 3 pillars of cybersecurity, conceptually? The 3 principles. They're also the same 3 letters of a famous federal agency involved in foreign intelligence. Can I have everybody that's joining us remotely unmute your microphone one at a time and just say hello? I got to make sure you're still with us. And you there,
Hello.
Sonny?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Luke?
Here.
Great. Shinoa? Yeah, I got you.
I'm here.
Okay. CIA. Does everybody remember availability?
Yeah, and integrity for I.
Yes. And confidentiality. So these are things that profoundly, in fact, affect our ability to perform network forensics. And what I'm going to do now is call out Shinoa. And Shinoa, I'm just doing this playfully, right? So you drop the Zoom and then you rejoin the Zoom. And I'm assuming that's because there was some sort of disconnect on your network. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Does that not have to do with availability?
Yes.
Okay. Does everybody remember that in the network class, we said that one of the layers was the greatest reason for career deaths, career catastrophes? Does anybody remember which layer of the network OSI model is the single source of the greatest number of problems? Which layer is it? Well, there's 7 layers.
I think it was the 5th.
No, it's not the 5th. It's the physical layer. It's the physical layer. So everybody gets into the weeds on network issues and they're troubleshooting network issues. And here you are, a network professional. You can't get the stuff to work. Oh, the application isn't going. Oh, the network isn't reliable. And everybody's focused on all the other weeds in the other upper layers, right? What you find out is that it's layer 1, the physical, right?
Somebody plugged in something.
It's layer 1, the physical. So I have a question for you. And you can make this decision with me as a class together. I am in the process of structuring the content for the modules for this course. And I have the main topics for each of the 6 modules already mapped out as far as the big ideas that we're going to cover in each of those modules. And then I'm going to basically work with a textbook and other resources and map that out as we go. But before we start, and Shinoa, I'm very glad that you dropped. Would you not agree that availability is one of the important aspects of cybersecurity as a founding principle? Are we all in agreement about that?
Yeah.
Are we all in agreement that the physical layer is one of those things that bites people all the time, especially with regard to availability?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Are you ready for the option with this course? Are you ready for the question?
We pair up with WAPA?
I'm going to ask the question. So I'm going to try to make this a workshop, right? We're going to call this our course curriculum workshop for today.
Okay.
Okay, so all of you are here, all of you decided to invest the time, and I want to make this worth your while. I can continue with the academics and the virtual solutions, and I can ignore our present circumstances in the real world where we live. Knowing that Shinoa drops, but Shinoa isn't the only one. In every single class that I have, when it comes to network forensics is a tool to help you understand where the gaps are, why the service isn't happening, how it's compromised, right? And the most neglected layer of all is the physical layer. Physical. I'm going to give you the option, because this is the first time we've taught this course in a number of years. We have a new textbook. We have all new virtual systems. We have toys to play with this season. But one of the best things you can do with those toys is to solve problems nobody else knows how to solve. It'd be great if you knew how a certificate was hacked on a website, sure. You want to protect somebody's revenue stream. And we're getting there. We're going to take the layer, we're going to take the network environments, and we're going to basically follow kind of a similar model. We're going to start with layer 2, broadcast network, wireless and Ethernet. Then we're going to go to IP networking, internetworking, perimeter networking, internet. Then we're going to go to cloud networking, right? And so that's the progression that we're going to follow in the course. But I want to ask you right here and right now, would you rather prefer, before the concrete has set, do you think it would be good if we spent from now until around Labor Day to learn how to troubleshoot with forensic tools why the heck the network keeps dropping?
Yes.
We turn this on its side and we break the rules. We color outside the box. You are seniors. You've earned the right. It's time to do something a little different. And your schedule may allow for that. Here's the trade-off. I'm going to want you to do some things in your local network at home and to make some changes and to work some stuff. And you have to be willing to do that. So what we do is turn this into an open-ended module. We'd say, of all the things that are neglected, it's the availability piece. Let's use network forensic tools to figure out what the heck is going on with some of these networks. Why the heck are they crashing all the time? And let's fix them. Because this would be the one class where if you're doing a network forensic solution and it's midterm week, do you have time to do the network forensic solution over again because the network drops?
No.
And then a third time because the network drops? Are you feeling me here? Do you understand what I'm getting at here? Mm-hmm. Would you prefer to be able to capture when that happens, not if that happens, but let's face it, there's a limitation to the things we can impact. We have no control over our service providers. But if we have definition about what the problems are with our service providers, we can provide that information and we can do some things locally to mitigate some of those failures. Everybody's complaining about a certain internet service provider and cellular provider lately in the news. I know for a fact that DNS issues are behind some of the problems, right? My point is that you can do some basic network forensics, but the focus isn't catching the bad guy or the hacker. The focus isn't about preventing exploits on devices and systems. That comes in module 2 through 6, but we could, as a class, decide, you know what? What good is network forensics if it can't help you solve a simple problem, or at least improve a simple problem? What value does network, let me put it to you this way, what value does network forensics possess if you leave this university, you go to the work site, you have sucky networks, and you're not allowed to share this discipline and this skill set to improve things? You're going to have to win over the users when their network is twice as fast. And I did this. I actually demonstrated this. I had a college president that got so ticked off, his internet was so slow, and he said, Ken Top, you gotta fix this. And I said, we got a problem. It's in the male dorms, they're surfing the porn, they're running 6 windows simultaneously in high resolution at 30 frames a second, stereo sound, and they're hosing the network. And he goes, whoa, we don't want to violate privacy. I said, if you buy a bigger pipe, if you go out there, all we're gonna do is throw money at this, we're gonna buy a bigger pipe, we can't. And then he goes, well, but that's residential, that's their private life. I said, yeah, but that's this side of the coin. Are you ready for the other side of the coin? Flip the coin. You have a dozen staff and faculty that are doing the same during business hours. And he was like, I want to know who they are. No, I had a choice. This is a true story. I had a choice. I used simple tools in a network forensic manner to identify a problem. That's what I'm talking to you about right now. The lack of bandwidth, a slow, nasty network where you can't do anything. And here's what happened. He said, I have to know who these people are. And I said, no, sir, that's a legal nightmare all its own. We haven't had training sessions. You haven't required the signature of your users in a work environment to abide by the terms and conditions of what we call acceptable use policy. You don't have banners that say, if you're using this network, you agree to be monitored on this network. There were things that we have to implement so that we don't get sued because we hang somebody out to dry for being naughty at work, not safe for work, and that's a reality we all deal with. And he said, well, so we get rid of the porn, we're trying to legislate moral decisions. I said, no. I said, these tools tell me this is where the sites are. The tools I'm using do not tell me who the people are. I can demonstrate that you have a problem and it needs to be fixed. But we're not going to be crucifying any of our colleagues here today. What we're going to do is communicate the problem to our stakeholders in a reasonable and appropriate fashion and say, Houston, we have a problem. We have some folks that are doing things that are not safe for work. It's causing a problem with the availability of our network. And I suspect that there are unsavory things that are going on our internet service provider networks here on the territory, depending on the time of day and what's going on. It's not our job to capture that data and then to use that for evil, to manipulate, to influence decisions. It's tempting, but extortion is a felony, and you can go to jail for a long time for extortion. It breaches ethical conduct. But what we can do is we can use that information in very powerful ways. So I showed the president of this campus how much we would gain if all we did was put a simple filter out on the perimeter to block some of the most popular sites. Now this was like 16, 18 years ago before we had a lot of sophisticated stuff, okay? And having a 1.5 megabyte connection for an entire campus was considered good. Now, let's think about that. 1.5 megabytes is called a T1 circuit. That's a dedicated circuit connection to the backbone of the internet. We had 1.5 megabytes to share with 1,000 users. And that's what I inherited when I walked in the door. And the first order of business was to fix the internet. And the problem was we had people being people, human beings. Layer 8, everybody remember layer 8? Layer 7 is application, layer 8 is the human, right? The user. I'm going to finish the story another time, but my point to you is, would it be nice for you to dabble in our very first module with the very first layer? I'm going to ask you to go into chat. I'm going to pose the question. I want you to respond to me only as the instructor with a yes or a no answer. Would you like for us to alter the traditional coverage of our course in terms of content, so that we start first with forensic tools that help us troubleshoot and resolve connectivity and availability challenges. Because that's one of, let's face it, we can talk about cybersecurity all you want, but until we talk about availability and stuff dropping all the time, did I not show you, and I'm just asking this question, did I not show you, and I'm going to stop sharing here, did I not show you in a previous class, I mentioned something about availability and putting this wireless router behind the, yes or no? Was that this class or was that another class?
I think that was it.
Might have been another class.
May have been another class.
So this is the Aruba Wi-Fi access point in here. When I first got in here to prep last week, I couldn't connect. I couldn't connect at all. I couldn't connect in my office either. And the old cart, can everybody see the old cart here? I'm waving at. See how it's open space?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, the new TV over here, solid metal back there. And it's been the habit of ITS to put the wireless access points, you know, behind the TV, right? So here wasn't a problem. Behind a plate of metal was like a Faraday cage. And one of the first problems I solved was, okay, we got an availability challenge here. My point to you is, would you like to dedicate the first 2 to 3 weeks of this course on something practical and gritty that isn't always about hacking, but you're using network tools to determine what is causing the availability drops? It means you have to be ready to do things in your own home or in your own workplace. And you have to be willing. You might have to come after it more than once, okay? So I'm gonna open up the chat window. I'm gonna stop sharing. Where are we here? I'm gonna stop sharing.
I'm gonna turn around this way.
And what I'm gonna do is open up, I'm gonna pause recording. But what I'll do is I'll pose the chat question, and I want each of you to respond to me only with your answer. I'm gonna ask the question, would you like to do something hands-on to identify network availability challenges using basic forensic tools, right? That's what I'm gonna ask. Is everybody ready for this? And then we're done for the day. We're finished. Okay. Will you support a new course module in the first 3 weeks to examine network availability challenges? Please respond only to the instructor. Please reply only to the instructor. And let me pause recording because some of the answers are popping up on the screen already. Okay. So once again, we'll start on Monday, virtual in Zoom. I'll do it from my home network. That way you can try things from your home network. Thank you, have a great weekend. And please be sure to post your proof of textbook acquisition by midnight Saturday night. And we'll see you on Monday.